We continue now at the top of Daf Ayin Beis Amud Beis in Meseches Kiddushin. This is Kiddushin Daf 72b. The Gemara is continuing things that Rebbe said upon his deathbed. He said that there's Rav Ada bar Ava Hayom Yoshev B'cheiko Shel Avram. That today Rav Ada bar Ava is sitting in the lap of Avram. And Rashi says, what does it mean he's sitting in the lap of Avram? Hayom Yoshev B'cheiko Shel Avram Yesh Omrim Meis Hayom. Some people say that what it means to say is that Rav Ada bar Ava died today. V'imkei. Now, if that's true, Ein Zer Rav Ada Shebe Gemara. This cannot be the Rav Ada bar Ava in the Gemara, because he certainly would not have died on the same day that Rebbe is dying. Venira, so Rashi says it appears, that what it means is B'cheiko Shel Avram Avinu is that today Rav Ada bar Ava had a bris milah. V'zer Rav Ada bar Ava sheherech yomim harbe mishameis Rebbe adoros achronim. This would be Rav Ada bar Ava, who lived a very long life from the time that Rebbe died. That's around the time that he was born, until the later generations, b'mei Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, all the way until the days of Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, kedamrinum b'Baba Basra, like we say in Baba Basra. And the Gemara continues that furthermore, Rebbe said, Hayom nolad Rav Yehuda beBavel. Today, Rav Yehuda was born in Bavel. The Amar Mar, because the Master said, Kishemes Rabbi Akiva. When Rabbi Akiva died, nolad Rebbe. Then Rebbe was born, Kishemes Rebbe, nolad Rav Yehuda. When Rebbe died, that's when Rav Yehuda was born, Kishemes Rav Yehuda, nolad Rava. When Rav Yehuda died, Rava was born, Kishemes Rava, nolad Rav Ashi. When Rava died, Rav Ashi was born. L'lamedcha, this teaches you she'ein tzaddik niftar min ha'olam ad shenivra tzaddik kimozo, that one tzaddik doesn't leave the world until another tzaddik is created like him. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, v'zorach hashemesh uvo hashemesh, the sun rises, the sun sets. Ad shelo kavsa shimsho shel Eli, before the light of Eli went out, zarcha shimsho shel Shmuel haramasi, the light, the son of Shmuel haramasi, was already shining. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, v'ner lokim terem yichbe u'Shmuel shoche v'gomer, it says that the candle of God, it hadn't went out yet, and Shmuel was lying there, showing you again that Shmuel was already prophesying at that time. And the Gemara continues, Tziva Hashem liYaakov Seviva V'tzarav. It talks about the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says about Yaakov that his enemies will surround him. Rav Yehuda says, Kagon Humanya L'fum Nahara. It's like Humanya by Fum Nahara. That's an area where you have the enemies, the non-Jews, that are surrounding this area where the Jews live. And the Gemara continues, Vayihi Kihinaviu Platiyahu ben Benayahu Meis. It says that when I was prophesying, Platiyahu ben Benayahu died. Vo'epol al ponai vo'ezak kol gadol. It says that I fell on my face and I screamed a great scream. This is a pasuk from Yechezkel. Va'omar aho Hashem Elokim. And I said, aho Hashem Elokim. Rav and Shmuel argue about this. What does it mean in this pasuk that I cried out? Chadam or Latova, one says it means to say for the good, meaning to say that Platio ben Benayahu was good. The Chadam or Laram, one says he was evil. Mandam or Latova, the one who says he was good. Kihod de Standra de Meshan Chasne de Nebuchadnezzar have. It's like the governor of Meshan, he was the son-in-law of Nebuchadnezzar. Shalach le mikule hai shivya da Isis lach, and he sent him the following message to Nebuchadnezzar: from all of the captives that you've taken, lo shadart lon de koi lekamon, you haven't sent any that can come before us, that can serve us. Boy l'shadure leim Yisrael. So Nebuchadnezzar wanted to send him some Jewish slaves. Amar le Platio ben Benayahu. So Platio ben Benayahu said to Nebuchadnezzar, Anon de chashvinan, we who are more important, neku mikamach, we should be in front of you, hach, over here. V'yavdin nezel lahasam, and let our servants, let them go over there. In other words, he spared the Jewish people from having to go serve the Eved of Nebuchadnezzar, so to speak. V'yamar navi misha'asa tova b'Yisrael yamus b'chatzi yamavin. So then the Navi says about this situation, that somebody who did something so good for Klal Yisrael, he should die in half of his days. So that's the understanding of the pasuk, that this Platio ben Benayahu was good. And the Gemara continues, Man Damar L'Ra, the one who says that it was bad, that he was bad, D'chsiv, as it's written, V'atavo osi el shar beis Hashem HaKadmoni, Hapona Kadima, it says that you brought me to the eastern gate that faces east, V'nei b'Pesach Hashar Esrim v'chamisha ish, and at the opening of the gate were 25 men, V'ere b'sochem es Yizno, Ben Ezer ves Platio ben Benayahu, one of the people among them is Platio ben Benayahu, Sarei Ha'am, the officers of the people, D'chsiv, and it's also written, V'yavo osi el chotzer beis Hashem HaPnimis, V'nei Pesach Eichel Hashem, Ben Ha'ulam uvein HaMizbeach, Ke'esrim v'chamisha ish, again, there were 25 men over there, and it says, Achoreim el Heichel Hashem, it says their backs were turned towards the Heichel, towards the Beis HaMikdash, Ufneihem Kedma, and they were facing east. And so the Gemara now says, Mimashma Shenemar Ufneihem Kedma, from the fact that they're facing east, Eini Odea Shachoreim Klapi Ma'arav, don't I already know that their backs are towards the west? Ma Talmud Lomar Achoreim al Heichel Hashem, so why does the pasuk have to say Achoreim al Heichel Hashem? Melamed Shoyim Mafriyin Atzmam, Matrizin Atzmam, atzmam klape mala. What it shows is that they were exposing themselves and they were going to the bathroom towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'ka'amar Navi, so then according to this understanding, Platio did something that was bad, and the Navi is saying, Misha asa hara hazos b'Yisrael, somebody who did something that is so evil like this in Klal Yisrael, Yamos al mita, so he should be able to die in his bed. And the Gemara continues to stayim de Shmuel de Amar Laro. We should conclude that it's actually Shmuel who said that he was a bad person. The Amar Bechia Baravin Amar Shmuel, because Bechia Baravin said that Shmuel said, Moshcheni harei kagola liyuchsim. He said Moshcheni, that's like the exile for Yuchsim, meaning they have good lineage. And Mishon, when it came to Mishon, lo chashu lo misham avdus v'lo misham mamzerus. There was no concern of slaves over there. There was no concern of mamzerus over there. Ela kohanim shahayu ba lo ikpidu al hagrushos. It's just that there were kohanim over there who weren't strict in terms of the violation of marrying a divorcee. And the point over here is that you see that in Mishon there are no slaves, and the one who said that Platio ben Benayahu was good, so that story was about the son-in-law of Nebuchadnezzar from Mishon, and he was bringing slaves to that area. So there are slaves according to that opinion. And the Gemara says, no, Liolam Emelach Shmuel. I could really say to you that Shmuel is the one that says he was good. Shmuel Amar Latova. Shmuel says he was good. Shmuel Ataime. But Shmuel follows his opinion when it comes to slaves in general. The Amar Shmuel says, Hamafkir Avdo Yatzel L'Cheiros. If somebody makes his slave ownerless, the slave actually goes free. So it could be the slaves went free. V'yein Tzarech get Shichra, and there's no document of freedom that is necessary. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Evedish Miknas Kesef, Evedish V'lo Evedisha, talks about an Evedish. Is it an Evedish and not an Evedisha? What it means to say is as follows: Ela Eved sheyesh lo rishus l'rabo olav. What the pasuk means when it says Evedish, it means to say that if you have an Eved that the master has rishus over him, karoy Eved, that's called an Eved. Eved she'ein l'rabo rishus olav. But if an Eved, if the master has no rishus over him, meaning to say he was mafkir him, he made him ownerless, ein karoy Eved, that's not called an Eved. So you don't even need to get shichra in that situation. And Rashi explains, to stayim the Shmuel hu damar l'ra, you should conclude that Shmuel is the one that says that he was bad. The Shmuel lesle hadamar da'avadim nishtalchu l'meishon, because Shmuel clearly does not hold that the slaves were sent to Meishon. Midukamar lo chashu l'misham avdus, because he said there's no concern of slavery in Meishon. And the Gemara then said, Liolam eimalach Shmuel hu damar l'tova. Maybe Shmuel said he was good. The islay had nishtalchu avadim l'meishon, and the slaves were sent to Meishon. V'hai dekamar lo chashu l'misham avdus. When he says there's no concern of avdus over there in Meishon, Shmuel Ataime, Shmuel follows his opinion. Diamar Eved Shein Lo L'Rabo Rishas Olav Ein Karoy Eved. He says again, it says Evedish, and the question is it only a male slave? It doesn't apply to a female slave. We learn out Evedish that he has to have an owner. He has to have somebody that has rishus over him to be called an Eved. If there's no rishus over him, he's not called an Eved. V'hani Nami. So these slaves also, if they were already stolen from them, they gave up hope. Zeu Hefker, that's considered ownerless. Kedaminam Begittin, like we say in Gittin. Nisiashti Miploni Avdi, that if I gave up hope from ever getting my Eved back, Mishum Lashon Hefker Nakat Law, they came into Siayish Lemine, Pakale Rishuse. It's a language of Hefker. Once he gives up, that's already, he has no Rishus. V'eno Tzarech get Shikhr, and you don't even need to get Shikhr. Leos Mutter Be Yisrael, that Eved is now Mutter in Yisrael. You don't need to get Shikhr. That Eved is considered Mutter to marry into the Jewish people. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda said that Shmuel said, Zu Divrei Rabbi Meir, this is the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Avol Chachamim Omrim, but the Chachamim say, Kol Aratzos Becheskes Kashrus Heim Omdos. All lands, there's a presumption that the lineage is kosher. Rashi explains, Zu Divrei Rabbi Meir, Masnisin de Katani de Alu Psulin LaEretz Yisrael. The Mishnah says that the disqualified ones went up to Eretz Yisrael, Umashma, De'in Kol Ha'aratzos Becheskas Miyuchasos. It sounds like all lands are not considered to be Miyuchas Chutz Mi Bavel, except for Chutz Mi Bavel Bilvad, except for Bavel, which is considered to have good lineage. Kedamar Breish Pirka, like we say in the beginning of the parak. The Messiah Leila Rebbe Lozer to Kamar Yichas Ezra's Bavel. It supports Rebbe Lozer, who says that again, Ezra made that there was Yichus, that there was good lineage in Bavel. And so again, that's all the opinion of Rabbi Meir, but the Chachamim say all lands are considered to be in a presumption of being kosher. And the Gemara continues, Ameimar Shara Leila Rav Huna Bar Nasan Leminsav Itasa Mechuzyasa. Ameimar allowed Rav Huna Bar Nasan to marry a woman from Mechuzyasa. Amarle Rav Ashi said to him, My daitach, what are you thinking? The Amar of Yehuda Mar Shmuel Zu Divrei Rabbi Meir, Avol Chachamim Omrim Kol Haratzos Becheskas Kashrus Hein Omdos. Is it because Shmuel said this is the opinion of Rabbi Meir, but the Chachamim say that all lands have a presumption of kashrus, and that's why you're being mekel in terms of marrying this woman? V'abei Rav Kahana lo masni hachu, bei Rav Papa lo masni hachu, hachi, ubei Rav Zvid lo masni hachi. But the yeshiva of Rav Kahana didn't teach like that. The yeshiva of Rav Papa did not teach like that. The yeshiva of Rav Zvid did not teach like that. But the Gemara comments, afilu hachi, nevertheless, lo kibla minei, he didn't accept this argument from him, mishum deshmiya leimi Rav Zvid Nahardoi, because he heard this particular ruling from Rav Zvid from Nahardoi. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Mamzeri and Nesine, Tahorim Lasid Lavo. In the future, the Mamzers and the Nesins, they will be considered pure, they will be considered of good lineage in the future, they will be purified. Divrei Rabbi Yossi, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Meir Omer Ein Tahorim. Rabbi Meir says they will not be purified. Amar lo Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said to him, V'alo kvar nemar v'zorakti aleichem mayim tahorim utartem. It says that I'm going to put purifying waters upon you and you'll be purified. Amar lo Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir said to him, Kashu Omer mikol tumoseichem umikol giluleichem v'lo min hamamzeres. It just means to say from all your impurity and your idol worship, that's what you're going to be purified from. But you're not going to be purified from mamzeres. Amar lo Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi said to him, Kashu Omer atar eschem. No, when it says in the pasuk atar eschem, the pasuk means to say you'll be purified even from mamzeres. And the Gemara says, B'shlomo Rabbi Meir hainu dichsiv vayeshev mamzer ba'ashdod. It makes sense according to Rabbi Meir. That's why it's written in the pasuk that the mamzer will sit in Ashdod. There will be mamzerim. Elul Rabbi Yossi, but according to Rabbi Yossi that they're all purified. My vayeshev mamzer ba'ashdod. What does the pasuk mean? Vayeshev mamzer ba'ashdod. And the Gemara answers, Kidimitargim Rav Yosef. You have to understand the pasuk the way Rav Yosef translated the pasuk. Yasvun beis Yisrael l'rochtzan ba'arahon to have a dami bol in Uchroin. It means that the Jewish people in the future will be able to be in lands where they used to be considered strangers, meaning the word mamzer coming from the word zar, that it means to say an area where they used to be considered to be strangers. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says, Halachik Rav Yossi, the halach is like Rav Yossi. We're lenient in this regard. In the future, the mamzerim and the nesinim will be considered tahor. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says, Hilav Damar Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel halachik Rav Yossi. If not for the fact that Rav Yehuda said that Shmuel said the halach is like Rav Yossi, Havasi Eliyo mapik minon sorvani kolarin. Eliyo Hanavi would have to come and he'd have to keep removing groups of people because you'd have so many people with various disqualifications in the future. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Ger no se mamzeres divrei Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi says a ger is allowed to marry a mamzeres. Rav Yehuda Omer ger lo yisa mamzeres. And Rav Yehuda says that a ger is not allowed to marry a mamzeres. Echad ger, echad eved meshuchar, v'cholol mutarim b'kohenes. A ger, a freed slave, and also a cholol, they're all mutar to marry a kohenes. And the Gemara says, my time at Rav Yossi, what's the reason of Rav Yossi? Chamisha kohol iksivi. It says in the pasuk the word kohol 5 times. And Rashi explains, Ger no se mamzeres, a ger is able to marry a mamzeres to kosavar kal gerim lo ikri kol, because this opinion holds that the community of gerim is not considered to be the community, it's not considered to be the kohol. The prohibition is that a mamzer can't enter into the kohol. The gerim are not included in that. V'havlad mamzer, and Rashi notes in this case the child would be considered a mamzer, tichsiv lo halach achar psula, because it says in the pasuk lo, and that means we follow that disqualification. Lo yisa mamzeres, he can't marry a mamzeres to kosavar to kal gerim ikri. The opinion that says that a ger is not allowed to marry mamzeres holds that the community of gerim is considered to be a kohol mutarim bakohenes, and then it said that by a ger or an eved meshuchra or a cholol, so they're allowed to marry a kohenes. And Rashi explains, V'afal bisha kohanim asurim begiores u'mushuchreres v'chalola. Now, even though the kohanim, meaning the males, they're not allowed to marry giores, mushuchreres, and chalola, to kosavar lo huzru kohanos ksheros linase lepsulin, because this opinion holds that when it comes to the kohanos, meaning it comes to those who are females, they're allowed to marry. They're not warned against marrying these particular psulin, laosan, shapasalein, and muzar alein, kagon elu, those that the disqualified one would not be warned against, like these examples, that is going to be mutter for a kohenes. And the Gemara then said that the reasoning of Rabbi Yossi, why he was lenient and said that a ger can marry mamzeres, is because chamisha kohol iksivi. It says call 5 times. Gabe azharas psule yuchsin lo yavo mamzer bekal Hashem, lo yavo lo bekohol, lo yavo amoni moavi bekal, lo yavo lehem bekal, dor shlishi yavo lehem bekal, the mitzri vedomi, ukahal de gabe psuadaka lo choshev. Rashi says these are the 5 times. The kohol that it says by psuadaka, we're not counting the lavin psula yuchsin kamishtoi, because that's not talking about disqualifications that have to do with yichus, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph.